Bonjour tout le monde, welcome to the long-awaited second installment of the French passive voice, this time with indirect objects. Now if you haven't watched the previous video, then by all means go and watch that first and then come back here so you familiarise yourself with the passive voice. And also, if you're not sure what indirect objects are, I'm only going to briefly explain them in this video, so watch my pronouns video if you're unsure on indirect objects. Now the first thing you need to understand about the passive voice is that if there's an indirect object in your active sentence, you cannot construct it passively. So instead we have to simply use the active voice. Why? Because usually indirect objects follow a direct object. So we can't do what we normally do by swapping the object and the subject over because we've essentially got two objects. So let's take the sentence Il m'a donné le livre. He gave the book to me. That's an active sentence. He's the subject. The book is the direct object because it is actually being given, and I'm the indirect object because I'm receiving the action of giving, so I'm receiving the book. To make this passive, we would simply say, I was given the book. Now you could say I was given the book by him, but by putting by him at the end, we make the sentence kind of redundant. We may as well say, he gave me the book, because the idea of the passive really is to eliminate the person who's actually doing the action. Now, of course, the problem with removing the original subject of the active sentence means that we no longer have anybody doing the action. So how on earth can we make it an active sentence without someone to actually actively do the action? Well, that's where that lovely impersonal pronoun on comes in, because it translates to one or maybe even someone. So with this we have someone doing the action, but it's not entirely clear who. And this solves our problem. We no longer have the problem of deciding which object to swap the subject with. No problem whatsoever, we just make it active. So our passive sentence becomes On m'a donné le livre. Okay, it's active, but it's still doing the same thing that the passive voice would do, eliminating the person actually doing the action. It's active. Now sometimes, of course, you'll have a sentence with an indirect object that doesn't have a direct object. For example, il m'a dit, he told me. But the principle is the same. Okay, we can't simply swap the subject and the object because there is still an indirect object, in this case me, in the sentence. So the same thing applies. Use the impersonal pronoun on in the active voice. On m'a dit. I hope I haven't gone over this too quickly, but I think it's a fairly simple concept. Okay, if you've got an indirect object in your sentence and you want to make it passive, use the impersonal pronoun on in the active voice. It's really that simple. Just remember to use the appropriate tense. So if your active sentence is in the past, your passive, in inverted commas, sentence will be in the past too. And make sure your verb agrees with on and not the indirect object of the sentence. But that's all for this video. If you have any problems with it, by all means, send me a message, email me, comment, whatever. But until the next video, which should be fairly soon, à bientôt.